Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is CJ the Populist New Yorker, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2022 New Mexico gubernatorial election. More specifically, we're going to be breaking down whether or not this state could be competitive in next November's midterms, and we're also going to be looking at the only poll that was conducted for this election and what kind of bearing this may or may not have on the race in 2022. So first off, let's take a look at this poll. It was conducted by Signal, which is a Republican-leaning poll, and they found that, according to their poll of 600 likely voters, that 45% of New Mexicans would vote for Michelle Lujan Grisham again, and 47% would vote for a generic Republican. Now, the poll does have a margin of 4%. Also, I think this poll also conducted the favorabilities of the candidates, and again, this is 600 people, but out of the favorabilities, which I think are right here, Joe Biden holds a favorability of 49.7 among this group polled, unfavorability of 49.5, so that's a net favorability of 0.2. Kamala Harris is underwater by around 6 points in the state of New Mexico, according to this poll. Donald Trump is underwater in the state by 9 points. That's believable. And Michelle Lujan Grisham is underwater by around 4%. So again, this poll does skew to the right, so I don't necessarily think that this poll is 100% accurate. In fact, I don't really think it's tremendously accurate, but it is the only window we have for this race so far. Now, if we look at 2018, for instance, Michelle Lujan Grisham was able to win a resounding 14.4% victory over her opponent, Steve Pearce, in 2018. Now, this was a blue wave year. This was a year where Democrats swept many governorships across the country. They took New Mexico as well. Susana Martinez was the Republican incumbent. She was unable to run for re-election. Steve Pearce was from the 2nd Congressional District, which actually flipped blue in the 2018 midterms. It's basically this southern, everything below this area of the state. It's the southern portion of the state. It used to be a fairly red district. It still is a lean red district. But this was a resounding victory. She won certainly with a mandate. Of course, New Mexico's legislature is controlled by Democrats, so Democrats have a trifecta in the state of New Mexico, and they have since 2018. But New Mexico has the potential to be a lot closer. You know, New Mexico is often thought of as a likely blue state. If we look at the presidential election results, New Mexico went to Joe Biden by 11 points. That's no mean a swing state margin. New Mexico used to be a bellwether state for basically the entire state's history. I think minus 1976 and 2016, I'm pretty sure the state of New Mexico voted correctly for the president every single time. Of course, New Mexico has changed a lot since then. The margins that Democrats win by in the state are very profound. Republicans rarely win the state, and if they do, it's usually for a statewide office in an off year, not a presidential year or a Senate seat or anything like that. The last time a Republican senator was elected to this state was in 2002. Now, this is going to be a midterm year. It's going to be lower turnout than a presidential year. It's very likely that we could see a potentially close race, although again, that's still out there, as I don't really see any big name Republicans that would be able to challenge an incumbent governor. If we take a look at the 2020 Senate election results, these were the results we saw with an open Senate seat in New Mexico. Now, I actually said this race was going to be like fairly, not close, but competitive, and a lot of people disagreed with me, but I was right. It was a 6-point margin, 6.1% margin in favor of Democrat Benry Lujan. Many people thought this was going to be a safe seat, but you know, you look back through history, you look at 2012, for instance, we've seen competitive Senate races in New Mexico when there's a non-incumbent, even in presidential years. This almost makes me think that perhaps if this was during an off year, maybe in 2022, if this seat was up and it was open, perhaps somebody like Mark Ronchetti actually would be able to win this seat, but he didn't. But I wanted to show you this as proof that New Mexicans definitely do split their ticket. A lot of people who voted for Joe Biden, at least 18,000 or so, it looks like, if you do it exactly, also voted for Mike Ronchetti. And some of those people who voted for Joe Biden voted for the Libertarian Bob Walsh. So there is split ticketing going on in the state of New Mexico, and it tends to be redder in non-incumbent years in these types of races. The reason I bring all this up is because Michelle Lujan Grisham is an incumbent governor. According to one poll, she's unfavorable, although we obviously need to see more polls. There's a long time to go for this election, but the point in showing you all that was the fact that New Mexico can be a competitive state, even in a presidential year when Democrats are overperforming other Democrats' margins in the state. I wouldn't be surprised if Republican turnout is high in 2022. I certainly don't think Republicans are going to forget about, the lockdowns and a lot of things they were opposed to. But also keep in mind, this is the state of New Mexico. This is a blue state. This is a state that in 2014, Mark Udall, who was the incumbent Democratic senator, won by 10 points in a red wave year. Maybe it was even 11. It might have been even 11 points, but won during a red wave year, 2014, a year that Susana Martinez won by this exact margin, 57.2 to 42.8 against her Democratic opponent. So New Mexico does split its ticket a lot, and I certainly think that it's possible in 2022, but I think the fact that Michelle Lujan Grisham is an incumbent governor really bodes well for her, because I don't think that it's going to be easy to knock her off. Again, if we just go back to 2014, as I said, Susana Martinez won by the same margin, won a ton of these counties that were blue. Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, this is the population center in the state. This is, won by Democrats by safe margins. This is what keeps the state blue. If Republicans expect to win the state of New Mexico, they have to get close in this county. They don't have to win Bernalillo County, but they have to be close. I believe in 2004, I don't think Bush won this county, but he got it within 3 or 4 points, and he did better in the rest of the state, and thus was able to actually carry New Mexico in 2004 by less than a point. But it really goes to show you that this is an uphill battle for Republicans. The political geography in New Mexico is not favorable to them. Even in an off year, it is hard for Republicans to win in the state of New Mexico. And the last time Republicans won statewide office in New Mexico, again, going back to the 2014 election, they won Albuquerque. They won Bernalillo County. I think even in 2010, even in 2010, Susana Martinez won Bernalillo County. If we just look at it real quick, 62-37, not very competitive. 56-40, not very competitive, although that is an improvement. I think Republicans are definitely going to hit a ceiling of around 45% unless they do better in these areas. Even if you run up the margins, you max out margins in these rural counties, you get, a 13-point margin in Colfax County. This was a county that Michelle Lujan Grisham barely lost. This is also a county that before 2016 was actually a fairly blue county. It's recently switched over to the Republicans in most statewide races. These are the types of areas that you need to win in by pretty resounding margins. Chavez County, which is home to Roswell, a pretty conservative area. And you need to do better in Sandoval County, Valencia County, all of these areas that are in and around Albuquerque and Santa Fe, to narrow those margins down. Las Cruces, same thing. These areas, you need to really run up margins if you have, any chance of actually winning statewide office as a Republican. So while I do think the New Mexico gubernatorial race has the potential to be competitive, and again, we've only seen one poll. Signal, actually, from what I hear, is not a very reliable poll. I've seen some of their other polls. They actually did a poll in Virginia back in 2018 and said that the race between Tim Kaine and Corey Stewart was going to be within 4 points or so. And that was back in August. This was actually the actual result. It was a 16-point margin. One of the biggest landslides in Virginia since, I think, 2008 with Mark Warner. So certainly I take everything that Signal says with a grain of salt, given their track record. Again, they said that this race was going to be a close one. I think all pundits knew that this was going to be a landslide for Tim Kaine. Corey Stewart was not the kind of candidate to run in Virginia. But that's their track record. That's the track record I'm aware of Signal. I don't really find them very reliable. I wanted to make a video about this poll, though, because it's the only poll we have. And it is possible that Michelle Lujan Grisham may be at or slightly below water in her approval. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to lose. You could be unfavorable and still win your election. Sometimes it just comes down to party ID. Democrats will vote for the Democrat, Republicans will vote for the Republican, even if they have to hold their nose while they do so. And I think that at the end of the day, Michelle Lujan Grisham is probably going to win her re-election by a likely margin. I originally had, I think I've always had this as either safe or likely. I've moved it to likely now. This is my unofficial prediction as of July 2021 for other governor's races. I might make a separate video talking about those more in depth, but I do think that Republicans are going to keep their majority in the governorships in the U.S. after the 2022 midterms. But that's my verdict. That's for another video, of course. But I think Michelle Lujan Grisham is going to win by a likely margin. I think the fact that she's an incumbent basically cements her place, keeping another term as governor. And of course, if she wasn't an incumbent, she'd certainly have a tougher time again. 2020 was a Democratic year. This was a year Democrats won the White House, won the Senate, won the House, and yet Ben Ray Lujan wins by around 6 points. That's still an impressive margin. 6 points is, pretty good. That's a likely margin, but it's close for a state like New Mexico, and certainly with a few factors in your direction and off year, other things like that, higher Republican turnout, it certainly could go toward Republicans, no doubt. And I think somebody like Mike Ronchetti, if he really wants to, get into politics in the future, he should probably wait until 2026 to run for governor if that's his desired seat, or wait for an off year to run for something like Senate. For some of the potential candidates, Steve Pierce, I think would probably be a weak candidate. He did pretty poorly against Michelle Lujan Grisham the last time. John Sanchez could probably be a decent candidate. He was the lieutenant governor, probably has some name recognition in the state. But again, I don't really think realistically any Republican has a shot at winning this governorship. Right now, I'd probably put it at a 5% chance that this is a flip, just because of the factors I've laid out before. And I don't think 2022 is going to be as lopsided as a midterm year like 2010 or 2014. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. Please leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss any new videos I put out. Share these videos with your friends. And as always, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.